Today, I'd like you to have a look at the two cars behind me and tell me which one is best. This is not a competition between the MG ZS and the Rover 25, but between Project Nigel and Project Morris. Rover 25 and MG ZS are exactly what these two cars are, but maybe they're a bit more than that. Certainly Nigel is, as you know. We all have reasons for liking our cars or even loving them sometimes, and that's really what this is going to be, because my wife loves the ZS and I personally love Project Nigel. If this was about just having one of them, if I could only keep one, which one would it be? I'm thinking logically about it as well, not just, well, have Nigel because there's nothing else like it. So I'm going to do a test between the two and do this properly. Exterior wise, of course, the MG ZS looks quite sporting. It has these lovely alloy wheels. It is a fabulous shade, really does look fantastic in trophy blue. It is quite possibly one of the nicest MG colours going, and when it shines like this, it really is quite something to behold. Surely Nigel can't really beat that, can it? Project Nigel is sienna gold, but it's also red and trophy yellow and arbor green and whatever colour of green that one is, and whatever shade of black that happens to be, a bit of trophy blue, a bit of X-Power grey, a bit of Wedgwood blue, and finally a bit of other green, can't remember what it's called. That cap came off a Rover 75, and the silver wing there I think is paint code MBB. When the right passenger door comes along, I shall replace that as well, but I do think that maybe replacing the tailgate might be just a step too far. This car also has my bespoke grille, which I did myself, and I haven't finished it. I haven't even taken off those tyre wraps yet to make sure it stays in place. Plus the lower grille painted in red, not particularly bright red though. These two cars, the ZS is the one that my wife likes, and Project Nigel is the one that she finds incredibly embarrassing. Project Nigel is the one that gets people turning around, looking, laughing sometimes, pointing. Maybe they're making fun of it, maybe they just like it. My wife finds it embarrassing. To me, that's a point. You may well notice that the rubbing strip on the side there, that's original Rover 25, but on this side it is Streetwise. And the reason for that is because this rubbing strip, well, this door in fact came off a Streetwise. So I added this as well, and people still seem to be a bit amused by the knot put in there. Have a look at these wheels. Now I really like this style of wheel. It's a kind of a mini hairpin, I suppose. I don't know if that's what it's called, but I'm quite a big fan of them. Nigel's wheels appear to be serpents, but 15-inch serpents, and they're a style I really do like. Quite a few people have said to me that on Nigel perhaps I should mix and match the wheels to have 4 different 15-inch wheels, and again I think that might just be a step too far. But the question is, the serpents or the hairpins? I think I like the serpents better, and that's why they're on there. And now for the boots close sound. That is easily a point for Project Morris. Interior. Let's start with seats. These checkered seats that the ZS has are quite pretty. They look very nice. They're reasonably comfortable, but they are made of plastic, and I'm not keen on plastic, not at all. Nigel, on the other hand, has bespoke half leather seats. And when I say bespoke, I mean they are found in other Rover 25s, but not a 3-door version. It's always a 5-door. And I had to make these. I didn't make them, that's silly. I just took all the foam and stuff off the frames so I could use the 3-door seats. And that was because the old seats were absolutely goose. Knock the handbrake off then. Anyway, I believe that's another point for Nigel. And it looks like Nigel might be getting another one, because these seats are quite comfortable. Let's not go into what happens when it gets really hot and they start sticking to you. But there's no lumbar support. There's no lumbar support, and you know they feel kind of a bit too easy to move around. You know, they've got the bolster bits on, but they're just too wobbly. Nigel's seats, on the other hand, aren't trying to be sport seats, because they're not sport seats. You have a bit of a bolster, but actually that's no less firm than what it is in the ZS. And just to be honest, it's a much nicer, much more comfortable seat. And it has lumbar support as well, so that's good for my back. I like things that are good for my back. This car wins on that one as well. Another point, Nigel, well done. Now, the Rover 25 does have quite a plain interior, really. It's nice and functional. It's quite nicely built, as long as you can get some air vents that aren't knackered. The only thing they really seem to have is these going wrong, where they get tugged around too hard, but mine's fine. Mine's fine because I fixed mine. All of mine works, so I'm very pleased by that. Plus, also, there's that little ledge on there as well, which is nice for putting things like small monkeys. That means, of course, there's no passenger airbag, but that little monkey more than compensates for that, I reckon. Now, the dashboard in the ZS, I think, is actually a lot more dull, really. On the 45, of course, it has these nice wood strips on there, and on the doors as well. If it had that, I think I'd much prefer it. But this, it just feels like a Honda. It's a Honda dash, it looks Honda, and it's just not very exciting. And then when you turn the key, it starts as it should do, and that's it. There is a bit more room in the footwell and a tiny bit more room in the back, but it's really not that significant. Plus the headroom's practically the same. I will say that this one's got a very nice clean headlining though. That's impressive. I think it can have a point for that, actually. So I'm giving Project Morris a point for its headlining. But this one's not too bad, really. It's sagging just a tiny bit there, and it's going there, as they do tend to do, but it's no big deal, really. And again, when I sat in this car just before I got into Morris, I did just feel really comfortable and at home, and I don't feel that in Morris. So I think just for that alone, Nigel deserves another point. Right, so here we're having a direct comparison test drive between this car, the ZS, and the Rover 25 Project Nigel edition. It's worthwhile saying that both cars are actually very easy to drive. Most Rovers are. It's only really the 75 where they just feel a bit heavy. But straight away the ZS does get 1 point, because there's actually somewhere for you to put your clutch foot. You take it, you press the clutch down, put it down, then there's a nice little rest down there, rather than just have it stuck underneath the pedal, which of course the 25 and ZR can't do. This particular ZR is the 1.6 model, 110 brake horsepower, 109, so it's not rapid, but it should be zingy enough to get you going along at the speed that you need. Motorway speed's easy enough, everything else easy enough. It just doesn't tear your face off, but do you really need your face tearing off? And have you seen the size of the steering wheel? It is truly massive. Being a slightly longer wheelbase, it is a bit more compliant on the bumps, and it does feel a bit more secure, but that doesn't really prepare you for for what happens when you stick it in a bend. Now the ZS, look at that is ridiculous. The way it goes roundabouts, it's just completely unnecessary. Nobody needs to go around roundabouts as fast as that, and I could still push it a bit further and it still wasn't losing grip. It's just bonkers. In terms of actual acceleration, well, you know, it's not brilliant, but it'll do. This car really isn't about acceleration though. I mean, if there's one thing that I really do like about it, is the way it handles. Acceleration, to be honest, Nigel's a bit quicker. And acceleration's a bit important, but you can't put everything on it. But the way it handles and everything, you really need to be getting over the moors on the A or the B roads, really, the nice twisty roads over the hills. Then it should really work. And in all honesty, I haven't even done it with this yet. I've been going to school and back, and that's been about it. So what a waste. Very nearly had somebody run into the back of me then, because I had the audacity to slow down when the cars in front had actually stopped. That was rude of me, I know. I'm very sorry. I'll tell you what else about this car I really do like, which is another point for it. It's got really good brakes, really good sharp brakes, and that's surprising because it's still got drums on the back. So I mean, it's not really a direct comparison between the two cars, as in how they came out of the factory, but how they are now, and what they are to me. And now, driving Nigel against the rather precious looking Project Morris. Nigel's very much a different thing altogether. Nothing precious about this. It's all just a bit silly, isn't it? But what we want to do here is decide whether it drives well enough. Now, I've talked long and hard enough about this car for you to probably know that I'm happy with it. Performance wise, this peppy 1.4 is actually better. It does pick up considerably better, in fact, I'm sure of it. You've got to really stir the pudding. You can't just expect torque to do the job, because it won't. And that makes it a slightly more exciting drive. Now, what about the way it corners? Here we go around this roundabout here. I think I'm kind of quickly coming to the edge of its grip, to be absolutely honest. Yeah, definitely. But having said that, it's clinging on well enough. How fast do you need to go around a roundabout? I've got to tell you, not anywhere near as quickly as I just did that then. Now, Project Morris, the ZS, has fully independent rear suspension, whereas the 25 just has like a cross beam with some wheels knocked onto it. The 25 suspension is much less sophisticated, but again, how much do you really need? The only way to really make that ZS worth its while as far as driving is concerned is to be constantly on the B roads, driving like a nut job. And if you're not driving like a nut job, then it seems a bit pointless, because absolutely honestly, this really is more than enough. In actual fact, because you can feel it wanting to slip a little bit, it means you're more likely to enjoy that driving experience before you end up getting yourself a speeding ticket. If you're driving at the kind of speeds where you're going to upset the ZS on a roundabout, then you're going too fast anyway. I mean, seriously, when I was testing the ZS on the roundabout yesterday, and as I've done before, if I was going any faster, it would start to hurt my head, and that's pointless. What pleasure are you going to get out of hurting your head? Hurting your head without even having a crash, that's doubly stupid. So I kind of think it's a little bit irrelevant once you get beyond a certain point. The ZS is arguably a better car, and I would imagine everybody would say the ZS is a better car. But it's not really about what's better, it's about what I like the most. Definitely the 25, and obviously in particular this 25. But the video is about which one I think is best. and giving you all the reasons. And as I've gone through all these things here, I genuinely haven't been keeping any kind of tab of where we're up to with either of them. So it's all going to be a matter of doing the edit, and I'll find out then which one wins. Marvellous, eh?